Well, hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on news about Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Coming up tonight, we interrogate what the National Democratic Congress NDC calls the true state of the nation address, the alleged wastage of the taxpayers' money. Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, joins us on Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. Also, President Akufo-Addo has ordered a probe into allegations of galamsey leveled against persons within the Jubilee House. Yet another rhetoric or a show of commitment to the fight against galamsey will seek answers. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. Also on the show tonight, as we assess the task ahead of Chris Hughton as he has been officially unveiled as a Black Stars head coach, to speak to sports journalists joining us tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the show. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Connect with us. Let's get talking. I am Alfred Ocansey. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs. The chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, says President Akufo-Addo does not appreciate the hardship Ghanaians are facing. Delivering what the NDC terms the true state of the nation address in Accra, Johnson Esiedun Ketia said the president cannot continue to blame COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war for the collapse of the economy.
The true state of Ghana is that a sack of maize, which used to sell for 170 cedis in 2016, is now being sold for 900 cedis as at February 2023. A tuber of yam, which used to sell for 5 cedis, is now being sold for 25 cedis, selling for 20 cedis. When everything is said and done, this is the true state of our nation, Ghana.
The NDC flag-bearer hopeful John Dramani Mahama has repeated his promise to complete all abundant and ongoing projects should he go on to win the 2024 election. In an exclusive interview with TV3, John Mahama said his government will not rush into starting new projects.
We will not be in a hurry to start new projects, and rather what we should do is to harness the little resources we have to complete ongoing and abundant projects, because the fiscal space we will inherit in 2025 is going to be very small.
The Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, has recovered 18.5 million cedis of the 46.9 million cedis owed by 3 state institutions: the Parliament of Ghana, the Ghana Airports Company Limited, and the Ghana Broadcasting Company, GBC. The power distribution company warned it will take the institutions off the national grid if they fail to settle the outstanding debts.
We have been going with them today. We visited Parliament House. They were owing about 13 million. They've committed to paying 8 million by close of the 8.5 million Ghana cedis. We saw evidence of that. And then we went to the Ghana Airports Company. They owed an arrears of 28 million Ghana cedis, of which they made 10 million Ghana cedis payments instant just when we got them. And now we're here at the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. They also owe in arrears about 6 million Ghana cedis.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, has petitioned Parliament over the government's decision to ban importation of about 20 electrical appliances. The Energy Commission says the move is to ensure energy conservation and also to curb dumping of electronic waste into the country. Black Stars coach Chris Hughton has addressed concerns about Mohamed Kudus's role in the Black Stars during an unveiling ceremony earlier today. While many view him as a number 10 with the national team, Hughton has a different view.
As regards Mohamed Kudus, he's still a developing player. And what I think we are lucky with Kudus is that he is a player that can play in numerous positions. So for anybody, everybody here will have a different opinion on his best position. You also have to look at his club. His club are the team, the coach, the assistant coaches that have him every day.
Further, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has, through the agency of the Forestry Commission, with the assistance of the military, made the effort to cordon off all 294 sites of forest reserves in the country and rid them of illegal mining as we speak.
Well, so that's President Akufo-Addo. This was sometime in January this year, specifically on the 4th of January. That voice or the video you just saw is converted into this text for the sake of emphasis. On the 4th of January, specifically at the Catholic Bishops' Conference and 16th Biennial Congress of the Ghana Catholic Diocesan Priest Association, President said, quote, further, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has, through the Forestry Commission and with the assistance of the military, cordoned off all 294 sites and forest reserves in the country and rid them of illegal mining as we speak. That was on the 4th of January. Okay, so after this statement, what we sought to do is to partner with citizens in these areas where the forest reserves are located, like Etiwa Forest, for instance. This is in Chebi in the eastern region. And also some of the NGOs and civil society organizations that are heavily involved in environmental sustainability also coming on board our quest to fact check and also keep an eye on the statements that our leaders make. Here's what we found out over the period. From the first week of February till just 2 weeks ago, we've received pictures from residents and these civil society organizations that have set secret cameras and also partners of the residents in these areas to fact check what the president talked about. These are pictures in what's happening in the Etiwa forest. Galamsey activity busily going on in the Etiwa forest, right? Just for clarity, this is it, right? This is one of the pictures we got from a resident. And then this we got also from some of the civil society organizations also keeping an eye and also shining the light on what the president said. So if we have military personnel, as the president said, that have been sent or dispatched to these forest reserves to ensure that they are protected and the ward of any illegal mining, then what is this? In fact, this is the Etiwa forest as well. This is Sejimase. Sejimase is another part of the Etiwa forest. This is in the eastern region. This is what's going on, okay? As we're gearing up to join the rest of the world to observe the International Day of the Forest, you hear government officials talk about 10 million trees, 20 million trees, and others that have been planted. But this is what's going on. We're destroying what's already existing. Okay? So that's the evidence of the reality of the situation on the ground, beyond what the president has said. Aside from that, today, the NDC put out what they termed the true state of the nation after the president's State of the Nation address. Johnson Esiedun Ketia outlined a number of things, including his call on the president to cut down on expenditure by firing some people who are occupying certain positions created without any real impact on the economy and the state of affairs. Take a listen to him.
Further evidence of the waste of in the many needless political appointees at the presidency. In the midst of the worst economic crisis in living memory, the president continues to make ridiculous and superfluous appointments at the presidency, such as Youth Ambassador for Diaspora Affairs, Policy Associate, Chief Executive of Public Sector Reforms, Overseer of the National Cathedral, Church Relations Manager, Diaspora Church Mobilization Officer, Policy and Coordinator Analyst, Focal Person, La Francophonie, Director of Special Projects, Manager of Operations and Programs, 5 Technical Communication Assistants, 2 Technical Advisors, Special Development Initiative Secretariat, Technical Advisor, Political Affairs, Technical Director to the Presidential Advisor on Media. Enough of this disaster of a government that continues to waste the already battered public purse with reckless abandon. We demand an immediate dismissal of these redundant hangers-on at the presidency.
He said the NDC will engage all stakeholders to fashion out a viable and sustainable alternative strategy to save the economy and the country's democracy.
We have a conversation on this. These are some of the appointments that Johnson Seydou Nketiah and the NDC describe as superfluous and have no direct impact on the state of the economy. So Youth Ambassador for Diaspora Affairs, Policy, this is not going to improve the economy in any way. And if you're talking about cutting down on expenditure, this is one of the areas that they point government to. So major focus tonight, we have Sami Jemfi joining us. And then also later when we talk about the issues of Galamsey, also because today the president has also talked about the police investigating the statement made by Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng about some persons at the Jubilee House allegedly involved in illegal mining. Stay with us. Daroboso would also join us right after this quick break. We have a big conversation on these on Ghana Tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Win your share of over 3 million Ghana cedis worth of prizes whenever you buy a bottle of Guinness, Star, or Origin. Dial *1000# to submit the code under the crown, and you can win cash, free airtime, and drinks. So look sharp. This advert is FDA approved. Drink responsibly, not for sale to persons under the age of 18 years. Not recommended for pregnant women.
Headache? Toothache? Pains? Worry no more. Introducing Alteco Cooling Patch. Aches and pains are things of the past. With Alteco Cooling Patch by your side. All you have to do is to gently take out the patch from the sachet and place on the portion that aches, and in a few minutes, you have your relief. Alteco Cooling Patch is not suitable for children below 1 year. Available in Ecos Pharmacy, Farmer George Outlet, Chaska Pharmacy at Shaiman, Jamie Hatch Pharmacy at Denta, and the Palace Mall. For bulk purchase, call 0243 148469. Want relief from aches and pains? It's Alteco Cooling Patch. Grab yours now. This advert is FDA approved.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chese na me ankasa me period na se problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chese na nya asem ketewa na me coin point no mo hwe me mogam no mo hwe bibia na so mo meduro me fire no ene ma won kra me enu kofro kwa na mkwan mu a eba
head everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama nu a ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you of Acrobato. Hello hey ohwehwe what che okay a free bra wo di end point what dance am me call you no me Joseph Sema na enkoyie e paso na ma yemre nyina na magina sebema na me no be fie for there e ho na nyina jaresa. You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic.
We have the talent. We have the stage. Get ready for a whole new experience at the maiden edition of the Francophone's Got Talent. At the most amazing, exciting, and surprising talent from the Francophone community. Battle it out on the big stage at the Alliance Française on Tuesday, 21st March. There will be performances across poetry, spoken word, singing, rapping, and theater. Come and share your favorite acts in our quest to discover Francophone's best talent. Amazing grand prizes will be presented to the winners by a celebrity jury. Don't miss out on the unique competition. This event is powered by the Lebanese Embassy in Ghana in collaboration with Net 36 Vista.
The true state of the nation is when a ball of kenke, which used to sell between 50 pesos and 1 CD in December 2016, is now being sold for between 4 CDs and 5 CDs. The true state of Ghana is that a sack of maize, which used to sell for 170 CDs in 2016, is now being sold for 900 CDs as at February 2023. A tuber of yam, which used to sell for 5 CDs, is now being sold for 25 CDs, selling for 20 CDs.
Well, that's chair of the NDC, Johnson Esunuketia there. Now, they want President Akufo-Addo to remove what they describe as needless offices created at the Jubilee House. Now, according to the NDC chair, many of the auxiliary appointments at the Jubilee House rather create avenues to merely waste public funds. Johnson Esunuketia enumerated a plethora of portfolios at the president's office, tagging them as ridiculous and superfluous. Now, take a look at this. I'm going to put some on the screen as they put out earlier. Some of the positions the NDC claims have been created in the Jubilee House. But no, there have been reactions to this, but there's been consistency on the part of the NDC on this. Started from that's Samuel Okudzeto Toblako first put this out, and then also the minority leader, Dr. Kessel Atufosi, mentioned at the point, and now the chairman of the party. There you see it. Youth Ambassador for Diaspora Affairs, Policy Associate, Chief Executive of Public Sector Reforms, Overseer of the National Cathedral, Church Relations Manager, Diaspora Church Mobilization Officer, Policy and Coordinator, Analyst. In fact, there are about 20 of them. There hasn't been any clear response or denial by government, indeed, the Jubilee House. We haven't seen any statement from Eugene Ahin saying that this is not true, okay? Because this is not the first time the NDC has made this statement. And you have focal person like La Francophonie, whatever really that means, and whoever is doing what there. But technical director, La Francophonie, coordinator, special development initiatives, secretariat, director of special projects, manager of operations and programs. You have 5 technical communication assistants, and then a few others as well. and you have 2 technical advisors, Special Development Initiative Secretariat, and so on. You see it, about 20 that they listed earlier. Okay, but beyond this, the NDC also alleges that the government has made the following expenses which they deem wasteful, and I'm going to put that on the screen as well. This is contained in the statement Johnson and Ketia read earlier today. The club president's operational enhancement expenditure put us on 59.4 million between January and September 2022. Fuel bills at the presidency, 51.1 million. President Akufo-Addo's 2022 regional travel, 16.9 million. Tires and batteries for official vehicles at the presidency, 15 million cedis. A cabinet retreat, 4.8 million cedis. Payment for new vehicles, 6.5 million cedis. And remember, this part, and that's what we're going to be asking a lot more questions of, because remember the number of measures that the finance minister announced sometime in 2021 to cut down on expenditure. One of those was there was a moratorium on the importation of new vehicles. Okay, so if this is there, and they continue to knock the doors of government to get some answers to this. And let me just put it on record that when we reached out to the NPP, the communications director is out of town from what we hear. And then also they've issued a statement. The details of it communicates how they intend to respond to the NDC's true state of the nation. I'll give you the details of that statement signed by the General Secretary of the NPP shortly. But I've been joined on Zoom by Sami Jemfi, National Communications Officer of the NDC. Sami, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. First of all, I mean, what was the end objective of all of this? The President has given what is the State of the Nation address. So what was the true State of the Nation address supposed to communicate?
Precisely so. As you may be aware, Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution requires the President of the Republic of Ghana to give a message on the state of the nation to Parliament every year. Now, what that message is supposed to entail basically has to do with the conditions in the country. The message on the state of the nation must reflect the true state of the nation. That is what many Ghanaians expected from President Akufo-Addo on the 8th of March 2023 when he went to Parliament to deliver this year's State of the Nation address. Unfortunately, the President failed to give an accurate account of where we are as a country at the moment and how we got here and what is being done to bring us out of the mess we currently find ourselves in. And that is why we, as the only viable opposition in this country and the government in waiting, were duty-bound to organize the true state of the nation address event we organized today at the University of Professional Studies to set the record straight and to present to the nation our counter narrative based on facts and truth. Because the people of this country deserve to know the true state of affairs. Not everybody knows the true state of affairs. Yes, they live the state of the country on a daily basis, they experience it, but not everybody has information on how we are faring as a nation in various sectors and the factors that have accounted for that. And so there was very good reason for the program we held today.
Right. It's interesting you talk about this being your impact on what they say the true state of the nation, because the NPP statement, which we'll put on as we go on, also say they are going to respond to your true state of the nation with another true state of the nation records, sort of. But I've heard some of the NPP members say that in the President's State of the Nation address, he admitted that we are in a crisis. To you, that's not truthful enough?
Well, two things are instructive here. It is one thing to admit that we are in crisis, and it is another to act as a person in crisis. You see, the president admits that yes, we are in crisis, but he is not acting as a leader whose nation currently finds itself in a crisis. You cannot say that we are in a crisis, yet you are maintaining over 333 political appointees at the presidency in many superfluous and ridiculous positions. You cannot say that you admit that we are in a crisis, yet continue to abuse the public purse with reckless abandon, continue to waste the little resources we have left as a country. For example, you cannot say that you know we are in a crisis and yet spend a whopping 15 million cedis, equivalent to 150 billion old Ghana cedis, on the procurement of car batteries and car tires in only 9 months of 2022. You cannot be spending 4.8 million Ghana cedis, equivalent to 48 billion Ghana cedis, on just one cabinet retreat outside Accra and say that you admit that we are in crisis. You cannot be spending in excess of 10 million Ghana cedis, equivalent to 100 billion, on just the Independence Day celebration we had in Cape Coast last year, and tell us that you know we are in crisis. You cannot also be spending 7 million Ghana cedis on data and network charges at the presidency alone in 9 months, 6.5 million cedis on the procurement of new vehicles, and so on and so forth. That is in fact an insult to our sensibilities. It's like somebody telling you that, oh no, I know I'm broke, and yet you see the person driving expensive cars, you see the person drinking expensive drinks, wine, champagnes, going to places that the rich go to. There, obviously, it will be clear to any objective mind that there is no candor, no sincerity in that kind of admission. So, yes, the president can no longer deny that we are in crisis. The facts are there, the signs are clear on the wall. Even children can appreciate the fact that we are in crisis. At first, they were denying that we're in crisis. Now, chickens have come home to roost, and so they cannot but admit. But that admission means nothing to the suffering masses who are struggling to make ends meet, and yet have a president who continues to waste the public purse on needless ventures. Again, it is one thing accepting that we are in crisis, but another actually admitting or being truthful about the factors that accounted for that crisis. In the president's address to the nation, he blamed our economic woes entirely on external factors, key among which is the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, and which others have been consistent about.
He and his government are not responsible for anything, but rather COVID-19. Clearly, that cannot be the kind of leadership Ghanaians need at this time. Ghanaians need leaders who will be honest about the state of affairs in this country, accept responsibility for where they have gone wrong, and listen to them in humility, even in these difficult times. So when the president says that, oh, before COVID all was well, and that we are in this mess because of COVID, he is not being truthful. And that is the more reason why we had to hold this true State of the Nation address to expose the many fallacies that were peddled by President Akufo-Addo in the so-called State of the Nation address to the nation. The deliberate falsehood, the contrived and flimsy excuses that they continue to rehash had to be exposed. My brother, for example, On the claim that all was well with our economy, I'm sure that all objective minds will agree with us that that claim is completely false. Because we're all in this country before COVID struck in the year 2020. We know that before COVID struck in March 2020, our public debt was already within unsustainable levels. Our public debt had moved from 120 billion Ghana cedis as of December 2016 to 225 billion Ghana cedis as of March 2020, before COVID struck. That represents a nominal increase of 105 billion in the public debt stock. And at the time, just like now, the president and his government could not show what they had done with those borrowed funds. Our debt to GDP ratio, which is one of the matrices for measuring the sustainability of the debt of every nation, any nation, had increased from 56% in 2016 to close to 70%. That is if you added the ESLA debt, the action debt, and the other hidden debts.
I see.
The debt service amount, the amount of money as a country we use in servicing our debts, had increased from 11 billion Ghana cedis in 2016 to 37 billion Ghana cedis in 2019, way before COVID. What that meant was that we were spending or using 91% of our tax revenue to service our debts.
I see.
In 2019, we're borrowing to pay workers.
But Sammy, you would also, take cognizance of what the IMF boss herself has said about the impact of COVID on the Ghanaian economy. Bearing that in mind as well, since you make reference to COVID, the president also stated in the State of the Nation address that any claim that his administration misused the COVID funds is not a true reflection of the fact. In fact, he said that the COVID-19 funds were not misused and that all were used on purposes related to, all the monies released were purposes related to COVID. Now, there is an audit report on this by the Auditor General, and this is the president's stance on the use of the COVID-19 funds. He says nothing immoral, untoward happened in the use of COVID funds.
COVID only came to worsen an already bad economy. But aside that, through this COVID, we had unprecedented windfall revenue, totaling 30 billion Ghana cedis to manage the pandemic and to support our economy. Because of COVID, the IMF gave us cumulatively $2 billion. The World Bank gave us close to $1 billion. Because of COVID-19, we received support from the European Investment Bank and other developmental partners. The Bank of Ghana gave us 10 billion Ghana cedis. We went into the stabilization fund and took 1.2 billion cedis, which had been accumulated under the ex-Wal NBC Mills Mahama administrations. Yet, according to the Auditor General, only 12 billion out of this total COVID funds of 30 billion was actually spent on fighting the coronavirus pandemic in Ghana. What that means is that we had in excess of 18 billion Ghana cedis free money to support the economy. Because we got 30 billion and used only 12 billion on COVID. So what did this government use the 18 billion for? And if COVID gave us more than what we needed to support our economy, then how can this COVID-19 constantly become the whipping boy of this reckless and wasteful government? COVID definitely cannot be blamed entirely for our economic woes. How did they spend that 30 billion? Even with the 12 billion they spent on COVID-19, we know from the Auditor General special audit report, that the monies were misappropriated and in some cases looted by government officials. We saw the Kwadwo Nkrumah-led Ministry of Information paying staffs huge allowances, risk allowances that they did not deserve, allowances which were meant for frontline health workers. According to the Auditor General, we spent about 12 million Ghana cedis. That is some 120 billion old Ghana cedis on the procurement of hot meals during a 3 weeks of partial lockdown.
I see. But you see, Sammy, and I just, yeah, because this particular point, the NPP has released a statement signed by Justin Kodia Frimpong, General Secretary of the party. I'm going to put that statement on the screen right now. They say that they have taken notice of what they describe as a propaganda-laced press conference of the NDC addressed by your chairman, which you tagged the true state of the nation. You say it was mischievously described as an address on the so-called true state of the nation. True to their unrepentant character, the NDC turned the press conference into a campaign platform, peddling blatant falsehoods, unsubstantiated allegations, and unprovoked attacks at the person of the president, the vice president, and the government of the NPP. Ordinarily, the NPP would not have dignified Esiedun Ketia's empty statement and unmeritorious effusions with a response, since he is no stranger to Ghanaians when it comes to such political theatricals. However, paying regard to the enormity of the allegations and falsehoods he spewed, the NPP has disclosed to set the record straight. Say they are going to set the record straight, Sami Jemfi, by responding to your issues with incontrovertible facts and data in order to assist discerning Ghanaians make an informed decision. That's what they intend to do going forward. Sami?
The statement that has been issued by the ruling New Patriotic Party reinforces our position that this is a hopeless bunch of people who do not know their left from their right. I mean, your president and leader has presented a message on the state of the nation to Parliament already. And the opposition has presented its counter-narrative. Why would you want to organize another state of the nation address to counter what the opposition has done if you believe in what your president did in the first place? Clearly, by issuing the statement they have issued today, they admitted that the president peddled falsehood. The president's State of the Nation address was weak. It was totally hollow. And they need to come again. Lawyers will tell you that when you see a lawyer giving a reply to a reply in court, then it means that the lawyer's case is very weak. If they had a solid case, I believe that it would have sufficed for them. The president's address to the nation would have sufficed. There wouldn't have been a need for any response from them. But because they know that the statement the president presented was hollow, that is why they want to engage in this back and forth. Well, we are not interested in what the NPP does. Clearly, these are a group of people who, because of the largesse of government they are reveling in, have lost touch with the realities of our people. They are living in their own world, far removed from your world and my world. They don't know what is happening in this country. They don't feel the hardships because they have enriched themselves within a very short period of time. And that is why they would want to engage in this needless banter with us. We spoke to the people of this country who are living witnesses of the true state of our nation. And we will continue to speak to them and not engage the NPP in any needless debate. What are they going to say? Are they going to deny that in Ghana today, childhood vaccines are in short supply, leading to a measles outbreak, and that they had to take Nigeria to save us from this avoidable embarrassment by lending us vaccines for our babies? Are they going to deny that we are currently going through a draconian debt restructuring program, and we are virtually forcing persons who have lent to the government, including...
Well, Sami, thank you. We'll see how the coming days will look like. In fact, but let me say as well that we reached out to the NPP, and the details of this statement spells out what they intend to do. Reason why we didn't get any of them responding to the issues that Sami, you put out and then also the chairman of the party put out earlier today. They say that they are going to respond in like manner in the press conference. They didn't state when, but they say in the coming days. In that statement that I read to you, signed by Justin Kodua Frimpong, who's the General Secretary of the party. But Sami Jemfi, appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. Sami Jemfi is National Communications Officer of the NDC, also on the True State of the Nation address that they put out there earlier today. We'll see how the MPP responds to this in the coming days. But this is Ghana Tonight. I want you to take a listen to this statement by the president. This was at the same function on the 4th of January when he talked about illegal mining in forest reserves and then also Akonta mining. Take a look.
I want to assure him and all of you that Akonta mining is not engaged in any illegal mining anywhere in Ghana as we speak.
This is Ghana Tonight on TV3. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. So that's the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, there talking about the Akonta mining. This was on the 4th of January, indicating that that company was not involved in any mining at that moment. But to many, this statement alone coming from the president was not good enough, especially as investigations are ongoing concerning this said company about their reported involvement in illegal mining in forest reserves. Let's go on now and get a bit more into this. Joining me in studio, Darrell Bosu is the Deputy National Director of Environmental NGO Arocha Ghana. Darrell, thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight.
It's a pleasure.
And now, does it concern you that, I mean, after the president made that statement on Akonta mining, there's really no update on investigations into the reported illegal activities of Akonta mining in forest reserves?
Yes, I think, Alfred, as you know, we have been very much concerned with the statement the president made. And I would say that since then, we have also been doing our own groundwork. And I think what we needed to see government do is actually to initiate action to actually even more or less call Akonta mining company to order, because as you know, it is not just about a mining activity that was done one time and it's gone. All the repercussions are gone. I mean, the impacts are there. Communities are suffering from it. Their water bodies are still polluted and all of that. So I think the question everybody was asking is not about whether, as at the time you were talking, Akonta mining committed an illegality or not. It's whether the action of Akonta mining actually was an infraction of our national laws when it comes to mining and in forest reserve in particular, and what was the government going to do about it. So it's quite worrying that we have not seen any national level action by the government or the Ministry of Land to follow up. As you are aware, it's now that only civil society has taken action to try and really bring the action Akonta mining to order, because we think that what has happened in terms of exposing the forest to the damage and also the water bodies and all of that, we just can't gloss over it.
I see, but what's the real picture, I mean, on the ground when it comes to the fight against illegal mining? Are we winning the fight? Because you hear the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources and his deputy talk about we're winning the fight, what water bodies are becoming cleaner. Is that the reality on the ground?
Alfred, I think I would give credit to the minister and his deputy, because I think they've done very well in terms of their PR around the Galamsey issue, but the evidence on the ground shows otherwise. And as long as you see...
So you are commending them for the PR?
Oh yes, they are doing very good with the PR. And I always say that they've been very good with the PR. This is a smart communication they are doing, but unfortunately, that is not resolving the problem. The evidence on the ground, the evidence we see in our rivers and water bodies all around us, the evidence we hear about some encroachments in forest reserves across the country and all of that, tells you that Galamsey is still ongoing. And most places, if you go to the western region, parts of the Ashanti region, and also parts of the eastern region, you see the water bodies are still unclean, still polluted. For as long as you keep seeing that, it tells you that mining is still ongoing, illegal mining is still ongoing, and I think that we cannot say for certainty that we've been able to address it. So I think that we need to do more than just spend a lot of time doing PR as the government is doing now.
See, you heard Professor Kwabena Frimpong-Boateng in that interview on national television.
Yeah.
In fact, let's play that video. Let's play that video just for the benefit of our viewers.
And then somebody put it out there, Frimpong-Boateng has taken 500. What am I going to do with it? There was an orchestrated scheme, even within the party and government.
To get you out.
To get you out. So that, look, why is it when I left, now everybody is in the forest? At that time, you dare not enter the forest.
Yeah.
You know, but as I said, I don't want to go into details now because I have a lot to say on that. But let me tell you that I did not take one excavator for anything. And they know the truth. Now things are coming up. We know those who are behind it, and the party people who are there, people in government, including Jubilee House, who are doing Galamsey and so on, even now.
Okay. Now, would you support calls, I mean, for the police and other agencies to investigate that statement by a former minister who was charged with fighting Galamsey?
Yes, I think it's a good call to actually ask the police and our investigative agencies to really look into this. But I think the other thing that we also have to be concerned about is what will be the direction of this investigation. Is it just to make the former minister look bad or really to unearth the truth? And I think that in most instances where we've had some of these issues, we find the plaintiff, actually being made to feel like the person is guilty rather than the truth really being uncovered. So I think that it is good, it's a good call to really unravel the truth behind this issue. And if, as he said, there's still some people at the presidency still engaged in illegal activities, Galamsey activities, we need to really get to all of these people and make sure they also face the full rigors of the law. And I think that it's really very sad to hear that this is really all still ongoing and it's being led by people in the presidency. I think there's been a lot of doubt. A lot of the citizens have actually complained that the reason why Galamsey is still ongoing is because of politically exposed persons being supported by people in high office and all of that. But we've never really had anybody to come out really and say that, look, this is it, this is it. And he was inside the system and he's coming out to tell us, look, this is what is going on. So I think that there's every merit of truth, possibly, that we all need to find out and unearth. And I think that it's good that security agencies have been called upon to really probe into this matter. And I guess the citizens deserve the truth eventually.
And you have been doing, Dara, I'm talking about you, Arocha, and your agencies. You've been doing a lot of work in the Etiwa forest.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to show our viewers some pictures that we got exclusively on some Galamsey activities in the Etiwa forest. This was in the first week of February. This was after the president had made that statement on the 4th of January this year that all forest reserves in this country are being guarded by military personnel. He said the army had deployed the personnel to guard forest reserves in this country. Etiwa obviously is one of them. So we got these pictures, and I showed it to you earlier. And so this is it. I mean, this is evidence of the illegal mining that's Galamsey that's going on even in the Etiwa forest after the president made that statement. From the first week of February, in fact, to the end of February, we monitored this. And also we got some in the first week of March. I mean, can you confirm this? I mean, per your work in the Etiwa forest, have you come across such reports of illegal mining still ongoing even after the president's statement in January?
Yes, I think this became a big issue, big news for all of us, because I think we're actually surprised to see that even after the president's statement, we have some illegal miners moving and encroach upon the forest reserve. And as you know, when the information was put out there, the Forestry Commission quickly moved in to actually apprehend the culprit and took action, and which I will say was quite swift. But even right after this incident, we saw of other cases in other parts of the forest, and these persons were also arrested. So it really tells you that that bit of the state, the narrative that has always been the forest reserves have been cordoned off, and the president said that. We also had the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Abu Jinapo, also talk about the fact that, and this was in a statement on the floor of Parliament, where he said that all the forest reserves are protected and they are intact, and that is where we really beg to differ, because on the ground it's not the case. If you don't see mining, illegal mining going on in forest reserve, you are seeing serious illegal logging activities going on. You are seeing serious encroachment from farming activities. And I can say for certain that no forest in this country is spared with some of these illegalities. And so to say that our forest is intact, our forests have been cordoned off with military men and all of that, I think we need to really see that evidence. And there's nothing on the ground to show that.
No forest reserve in this country is spared of illegal activity, that is logging or mining?
Or even in farming activities and all of that. I don't think there's any forest reserve that is spared that particular.
So when you see these, you reported it to the Forestry Commission?
Yes, as far as we know, because we work around, we see the activities of these people, we make a report, and sometimes they take action. Most times too, because they also have challenges with personnel and all of that. It's not every case they can follow. But I mean, as you follow and engage with communities also, sometimes the communities themselves also take action to address these things.
Daryl is National Director of, Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana Environmental NGO. Daryl, appreciate your time as always. And tomorrow is International Forest Day, so this conversation continues, right? We'll go into it tomorrow as well and see how things play out. Thank you so much, as always, for making the time to be here with us here on Ghana Tonight. Now, let's go into issues with sports. Chris Hughton, earlier today, was unveiled to Ghanaians in Kumasi and addressed a number of issues ahead of Ghana's doubleheader against Angola. Now, tonight, we'll look at the task ahead of the man who will manage the senior national team till December 2024, when we understand. And a member of the three sports team, Ore Kwampofu, my colleague here is joining us on Zoom. Collins Atapoku is a sports journalist who will join us shortly as well. Oreko, before we connect, let's look at this. This is what we do know about Chris Hughton. Just a brief profile of him, and he's managed about three Premiership clubs in England, and then also a number of other teams that he's managed. But Oreko, thank you so much for joining us. So tell us, first of all, I mean, this doesn't come as a surprise to you and to many of you who've been watching the space, but can Chris Hughton really make any significant difference in this team, considering the first list that he has put out?
Well, I think that it's, if you're judging by the list, I'm not too surprised because he served as a technical advisor in the past 12 months at the Black Stars, was with the team during the World Cup qualifiers and Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. And so he's had the opportunity to offer his advice and thoughts on selections that we've seen prior. And it's no surprise to see a similar tangent being taken, when selecting this team. I think just about 7 changes from the team that went to Qatar, which is understandable, taking into consideration some of the form of the players, some dropping out, and some other controversial names who missed out stepping in. But I think that essentially for Chris, the big task now is how do you elevate this Black Stars team? Because we've seen them, it's always been a case of not matching the true level of the team. If you look at the past 12 months, missing out on qualification at the Africa Cup of Nations, qualifying from the group, our worst ever performance at the Africa Cup of Nations, or even a major tournament in our history. And then we came to the World Cup where we finished bottom of our group. So it's a difficult period to come into, but the only advantage is that we have the youngest squad at the World Cup, just 24 years. And so there is a lot of tools to work with. Chris himself says that he could pick another 30 players from outside the ones picked. And so there are tools. The question is whether he would be able to get the best. That's the challenge that he says for himself.
You see, and he was asked a question about the interference and also this player selection controversy, which has always been the challenge that every coach has to deal with when it comes to coaching the Black Stars. Now, do you see Chris having the muscle, the metal, that strength to ward off any interference from the GFA?
Well, it's difficult to answer such a question because time and time again, I've always backed coaches thinking that they would be able to supersede, such interference. But it's always a tricky subject because coaches always come out to say, stuff about interference once they lose their job. But whenever they are on the seat and they have to take the decisions and they are asked in the media space, they always say that, things are fine and they're the ones taking their own decisions. But all of a sudden, the tone changes whenever they lose their job. So it's a tricky subject because you cannot put pen to paper and prove that, yes, there is some form of interference and someone is holding a coach's neck to call in a player. But yeah, we've had reports on that as well. But I mean, the sample size that we really have right now is very limited. And that's the press conference. That's all we know of Chris at the moment. Judging by the way he spoke, the words he used, I think that he's his own man. And you can see by how, he interacts with the media. And he's almost like a father figure the type of father who would listen to everything that you would say and then go on and still make his decision. And you could get that sense from, the press conferences where some questions were asked not in the best of tone, but he sort of rearranges the question and answers it in a way that he thinks you should have asked. And so he's a very wise and intelligent man. I think that there was no pressure on him to take this job. Once he's taken it, then he knows that it's his reputation on the line. I think that he knows better with the experience he has in the Premier League and all that. I hope that would translate into his job and he would know that he is the sole person responsible for his decisions. If he listens to anyone else and things go south, he would be blamed at the end of the day, not that person. And I think Chris knows that. I'm not the one to tell him. So I'm quite confident that he has the mettle to be able to, charge past any form of interference in the Black Stars.
As you said, you always, give them the benefit of the doubt and they always prove you wrong, is it not? I mean, unfortunately. But this is what we do know, okay, in terms of his, what he brings to the table, right? Take a look at this and we'll put that on the screen shortly. That the coaches that we've had over the period and then also what Chris Hughton is bringing on. Let's take a look at this. I see you have over the period, at least the last 5 coaches, Abraham Grant, Kwesi Appiah, Siki Akono, Milo, and then Otuado, then now we have Chris Hughton. What's a differentiating factor for him? Quickly.
I think the past 4 appointments have been shambolic. Kwesi Appiah coming back again. Siki Akono wasn't ready for the job. Milovan Raivat saying Otuado wasn't ready for the job. But I think that the only factor that plays into his hands is that he comes off the back of huge amount of experience. He's managed over 200 games, has been in the championship, played at the highest level in the Premier League where he's met some really tough opposition. And so I think that he comes in with a lot of quality and experience. That would be the differentiating factor. And I think that the players will listen to him because he commands respect because of his age and experience. So that could, in a way, play into his hands because they do have a very young squad who are ready to learn from someone who knows the job. And I think Chris has that sorted.
Oreko, thank you, as always, for staying up at night to join us. So that's Oreko Ampofu, my colleague here, Media Journal 3 Sports team. And before we go, some sad news that came in earlier. Dr. Anthony Akoto Osei, former Member of Parliament for the Old Tafo constituency from 2005 to 2020, has died. He was appointed Deputy Minister for Finance and Economic Planning in May 2003 and was Major Economic Advisor under the Kufuor administration. Following the death of the then Minister Kojo Banredu, he acted as Minister for Finance and Economic Planning. Dr. Akoto Osei also served as Finance Minister till 6 January 2009 when the Tamils government took over. He was appointed as Minister of Monitoring and Evaluation in February 2017. The Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation was a newly created ministry to evaluate, monitor, and plan review summits and forums in fulfillment of government policies and also on evaluating the progress of the ministries. In fact, he died at age 69 earlier today. That's what we got the news. Dr. Anthony Akoto say, as you see there, Member of Parliament from 2005 to 2016, Minister of State, Monitoring and Evaluation. That was that position he occupied before he exited active politics. In fact, 2017 to 2020, he decided not to contest the Old Tafo seat, which is now occupied by Vincent Asifua as we speak. Well, may his soul rest in perfect peace. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us same time tomorrow. I am Alfred Ocansey. Good night.
Brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.